Hi, everyone. Welcome to Shattering the Matrix. Tonight we have a really interesting guest. His name, we're going to be calling him Agent K, and he's a former CIA operative that has a lot of interesting experience with the CIA and has really good information for us all, especially for preparation for possible things that might be coming down the pike. And, I've been talking to Agent K for a while, and he was willing to come on air. We are definitely, like I said, calling him Agent K because we don't want to really reveal his identity, but he was very gracious in accommodating us to provide information for you all so that you can make your own determinations as to whether you need to be in preparation mode or not. So, Agent K, thank you very much for joining us today at Shattering the Matrix and helping me shatter the matrix with everyone here. This is also a live call, meaning that it's live where all the participants are on the call as well. We have several listeners on the call that are going to be asking questions at the end of this interview. So that should be really interesting as we've never done this before. And we are doing it as a teleconference call. Okay, right. So Agent K, thank you so much again for joining us. And can you introduce yourself a little bit? What exactly is your background?
Well, several decades ago, I was with the CIA. My theater of operations was the Far East mainly, but I was involved in the Middle East and Southeast Asia, that whole area of the world over there. And I did not stay long, so most people that join the company want to stay forever and ever, and I got rather disheartened with my nation. I thought I was doing the right thing for God and country, and as it turns out, it was for neither. It was for the powers that actually rule the world and have the blindfold pulled over all of our eyes. I actually am lucky to got out when I did. Things got rather tighter after that point, and it's not so easy to leave anymore alive.
Right. What can I ask? What got you in there to begin with?
I got interested in the company because when I was a young teenager, I had a very dear friend who was a retired colonel. And we talked hours on end practically every weekend. And he had been involved in OSS and eventually in CIA and several other high-level operations. He was actually involved in the Roswell landing, or crash, rather.
Wow.
And had actually seen the bodies. He described to me in 1966 things that were mind-blowing to my young ears at the time. He told me about microwave ovens, large-scale integrated circuits, fiber optics, electromagnetic propulsion, and these things were just science fiction to me at the time. And he said, you will see these things come about, and eventually they did. And that story is described in a book called The Day After Roswell, written by his friend, Lieutenant Colonel Philip J. Corso. I never met Colonel Corso, but the book very vividly and aptly describes all of the events around Roswell and what happened in the succeeding decades,
Mm-hmm.
How all these things came about, the reverse engineering that has led us to the point we are now, where we do have electromagnetically propelled aircraft and spacecraft. We just don't know it. They're not telling us.
Interesting. So did he recruit you in there, or you just got, your interest got piqued, and then you, how were you approached to go into?
I'm sorry, I did forget to answer that portion of it.
Oh, that's okay.
He apparently put me on their watch list. And I later learned that they do watch people throughout high school, particularly those who test well, as I do, and with high IQs, and they will approach you and recruit you in college if you're on that list they've generated from watching test scores. But he apparently entered my name because he saw potential for use by the company, and I use that word very stringently. It was use. When you're involved there, you're an asset to them. That's all you are. It doesn't matter how high up the company you are just an asset, and you are expendable at a moment's notice.
I've heard say, and correct me if I'm wrong, that if you are part of the company, you're really always part of the company. It's almost like you're always being watched or being gauged or whatever. Is that kind of true, or can you clarify that?
It's very true. To this day, I know they still watch me. I know they still monitor me. I have moved several times recently, and within a matter of weeks, I'll find black helicopters flying just right overhead. We see you down there, Jim. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So they're constantly watching. It's not like you can just escape them and say, okay, I'm just having a different life now. I don't want anything to do with you. They're constantly monitoring you.
Absolutely, as they are all of us.
Oh yeah.
It is absolutely true what the NSA is doing and how long they have been doing it. Most of us have heard the rumors that they monitor every phone call and every email. We just don't know how true it is. It is true. They think they've got thousands of people sitting there listening to your phone calls. That is not true. It'll take them probably 4 or 5 days before this phone call hits the computers. And the algorithms that they go through, I'm trying to space my words carefully so that I don't trigger any of those algorithms. There's 3 levels of computer heuristics that they go through before a human being would ever deign to listen to this conversation.
Okay.
And by that point, they will listen to it all. So, of course, they look for watchwords and phrases and try to determine, is there anything untoward happening here on this phone call or in this email?
Correct.
So you'll not hear me use certain words in the same 5-minute span here. Right,
I hear you. So this government spying on the populations is really not a conspiracy theory. It's pretty much accurate and it's real.
It's conspiracy realism, yes.
Yeah.
Because there is a government conspiracy against you.
Okay. Yeah. So a lot of the conspiracy theories are kind of accurate, you would think?
Absolutely.
Interesting. Okay. What, if you can share, I don't know if you can, if you can't, then I understand. Can you share in what capacity you were working for them?
I was simply an operative, a field operative. My job was to go in country, obtain a certain task. It was not James Bond type stuff. Most of the company work is pretty mundane. But my job was pretty simple: acquire goods, transport them, and let the company do what they would with them. I'll only say that if my operations had failed, you would never have heard the name of Ollie North. Huh. They tried to do it again, and he failed. Got caught, rather.
Uh-huh. And are you, can you share what kind of goods you were involved with?
If you put Oliver North together, you'll understand that what we were doing was basically the same thing, just from a different part of the world.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We were.
And for those people that don't know what Oliver North was involved with, can you share that?
Ollie was caught buying. We were buying drugs and selling the drugs on the streets of New York and Chicago, Detroit, Los Angeles, Atlanta, in order to finance guns for the Sandinistas in Central America. And that's basically what my job was to make a profit so that we could buy arms and send them back overseas.
Okay, and you were aware of that aspect of the whatever you were doing?
I did, and I thought, again, that I was doing it for God and country, the right thing to do.
Is that what they told you?
No, actually, once my mission was made clear, I said, well, okay, people are, they're going to do this anyway. This is going to happen anyway. I may as well make a difference in the world by trying to help my country.
Okay.
So it was a bad choice. What can I say?
Yeah. So you were pretty much wearing a black hat at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I thought it was a white hat.
Yep.
They have this funny little mirror, changes hats from white to black for you.
Yeah, I hear you. What triggered you to realize what you were doing was incorrect? What made you decide to leave the company?
My decision to leave was based solely on one directive. I was ordered to assassinate someone, and I did not want to do that. It's not like I had not killed in the line of duty.
Right.
When you're in that position, you do get involved in gun battles, and I had killed several.
Mm-hmm.
But to just walk up and coldly kill someone, I couldn't do that.
Right.
That bothered my soul to the point where I said, I've got to get out of here, and I started making plans to exit one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I thought I felt my trade craft sufficient that I could disappear if needed. But I managed to work my way up the chain of command, and the DDO eventually released me with several caveats. And so for years, no one has known. No one in my family has ever known that I was part of the company.
Wow, that's crazy. So what's your mission now?
My mission now is to open the eyes of everyone that will hear and let them know how nefarious your government really is. No matter how dastardly and underhanded you think your government is, it's much worse than you can imagine. They will stop at nothing to achieve their goals. They have no qualms at all about killing Americans on American soil, using American personnel to do it. But, you know, the soldiers, particularly the Red Squad, the wet work guys with the company, the people that do the assassinations, they are so inculcated with company doctrine and God and country, and it's just incredible what their reasoning is that allows them to do this, knowing that they are actually killing someone's mother, father, brother, sister, and it's the right thing to do for my country.
Right, because that's how they brainwash you.
Yeah, exactly, and that is exactly what it is brainwashing. And were you ever a part of the MK Ultra scenario? MK Ultra was a little before my time. I am aware of it. I know it was a fact. It's one of those things that I had discussed with my colonel friend. He liked to drink a little, and when we talked, sometimes he would get a little loose. But he's long since deceased, so I'm not sullying his name, I hope, by just spreading the fact that he told me things he should, spoke a little out of school, in other words. Mm-hmm. As I am now. I should never divulge any of the information I'm about to, but I feel the American people have a right to know, and that is my job. Okay.
I appreciate that. Let's talk a little bit about the purpose of the call, which is, well, I guess we're going to coin Teotwaki or Teotwaki, which is, what does that mean for the audience?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, it means the end of the world as we know it.
Okay.
It's just an anagram.
What does that mean to you? What exactly, when you say that, what does the end of the world as we know it actually entail?
Well, it could actually mean anything from an ELE, Extinction Level Event, to simply being knocked back to the 17 or 1800s by a large-scale attack on our country. And I feel that any attack on America will result in a subsequent fall of the rest of the world. When you consider how much we consume and where it comes from, the entirety of the world will be affected drastically by the collapse of our economic system, whether that is simply an economic collapse, the fall of the dollar, or whether we have our population decimated by attack, as many of the scenarios predict.
Okay. Now, how do you know this?
I have seen documents that talk about possible scenarios. Some of those documents were drafted decades and decades ago, some decades before I was involved, actually. These plans have been in effect for a long time. Some people attribute it to the Illuminati, which are real and run by the Rothschilds, who own the world, actually. You know, most people don't really know that the Rothschild family has financed both sides of every conflict since before the Revolutionary War. If there was a war, they were involved, helping countries buy arms to fight someone else and then helping them to buy the arms to defend themselves.
Right.
So it's that's how they have become so wealthy, and that is their plan is to control everybody, and they do. You know, they control the power structures of every nation on this planet.
So the document, I'm sorry to interrupt you, I'm just trying to follow up on that train of thought about the document that you actually saw. How were you able to see this? Was that a top secret document? Did it just happen to fall in your hands, or did you have some kind of security clearance to be able to see that?
Well, I did have a top secret security clearance, and that was how, you know, so many of these things happen, is someone just happens to have a copy at the time, and since you've got clearance, you may not have been read in, but okay, but don't tell anybody where you got this, okay? That kind of thing. And I had, of course, you always schmooze and cruise and make friends anywhere you are, so that you can call in favors, you do favors and get favors in return. And when you hear a rumor of some nefarious plan, you know, my thought was, oh, this can't be real. So you get someone who is back at the offices to find that document and say, well, you know, this is it. Well, can you fax that to me? I'm not supposed to do that. Well, right. Okay, put it in my drop then. So there were many ways that I would get things into my hand, you know, some related to other missions that were interfering with mine, some that were just general information that I felt I needed to complete my task. But some of these things that came down the pike really scared me, literally scared me. And it's hard to scare a man in my position.
Can you divulge some of the things that you saw? I mean, were that you remember what it is that you saw in one of those documents, or several of them?
Well, the whole idea is almost what they have carved into those, what is it, Georgia Guidestones?
The Georgia Guidestones.
Yeah, to reduce the population. And I worried about that one for a long time, but I finally figured that one out, I do believe. Smaller population is easier to control.
Sure.
Less distance, less resistance. If you have 300 million people that you're trying to dominate, it's almost impossible. If you have 3 million, it's pretty easy.
Right.
And I believe that is the goal here. At least some of the documents I read referenced many plans for population control once it reached a certain level. I think what's happened. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
So I think that what has happened in the last probably 2 decades, 2.5, is that we have reached that level, and I honestly think they underestimated the resilience and the mindset of the American people. I think they figured we would roll over, but Emperor Hirohito in Japan said in World War II he would never invade America because there'd be a gun hiding behind every blade of grass. And I think our leaders forgot that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting how every time they threaten about taking away our guns, the gun sales go up through the roof.
Someone once said Obama was the best gun salesman the country's ever seen.
Yeah. Very interesting. So, do you think that maybe seeing these documents and the plan that they had in store kind of like awoken you to the reality of what the company was really all about, and maybe just kind of gave you that, man, this is not for me, I got to get out of here, or something like that?
It was not just that. It was things I heard from other operatives. You run across in places like a safe house, you run into all of a sudden, and there's another guy in you. What the hell are you doing here? And right. You start discussing things, and, well, as it turns out, yeah, it was, everybody was getting a little scared, but most of them still felt we're doing the right thing. I just could not condone, the big banana for me was the assassination that I was supposed to carry out. I couldn't kill someone in cold blood. If you're shooting at me, it's one thing.
Right.
But if you just find you in a chair, that's something entirely different. I would not do that.
Right.
But,
right.
you know, the plans were weighing heavily on my mind. What I had seen, the Agenda 2000 plans, and now Agenda 3000, they're disconcerting, to say the least.
Right.
To know that our government thinks that little of human life. But we saw that proven in 9/11 and everything that's happened since then.
Yep.
You know, they just have no concern, regard for human life, even their own people.
Right. I hear you.
It's harsh enough to consider, you know, the life of a third worlder to be less equal than yours, and they definitely do that. But when you consider the fact that they consider all Americans to be just cannon fodder, that's enough. We need to wake up.
Mm-hmm. Got it. So true. Let's talk about possible scenarios for the end of the world as we know it. What could happen to bring it down? You did say something about, you know, possible, you know, war. You know, from what did you say? An ELE situation.
Extinction Level Event is typically considered to be an extrasolar object, such as Planet X. You know, many people thought L5
was flare, something like that.
A solar flare. A solar flare would not be an ELE, in my opinion, because it would simply knock us down, knock out our communications. And, of course, everything in our society today is based upon communications, even our electric grid. Without the constant support of satellite and digital communications, our electric grid goes down in a heartbeat. Back in the 70s and 80s, we had hard lines connecting every generating facility and every substation, divisional substation. So things could be switched back and forth. That's why it is a grid. If one section goes down, you can take that offline and replace it with generating capacity from other sections. And that was all controlled by commands over hardwired lines. With the advent of cellular communication, internet, everything has changed. And as I understand it from some of my sources, the hard lines have even been removed from most facilities to make room for more data lines. You know, the difference is like a hard telephone line. If power goes out in my neighborhood, my telephone is still on in my house.
Right.
My cell phone won't work because the tower went down. But so that's, you know, a solar flare, CME, will knock out our communications capability and possibly our electrical capacity, but it won't be an extinction level event. An ELE is going to wipe out mankind totally.
Wow. And I know that in our prior conversations, you know, I'm just going to get this out of the way for those that are thinking that along these lines and may have it down as a possible question. I know you told me that you don't consider yourself an expert on Planet X or anything like that, but have you had any conversations with any of your the people in the company that might have shed some information to you in reference to this Planet X situation?
Actually, no. I have the people that I still have communication with are in denial about Planet X, and I do not know if it is by company edict or they just haven't looked into it. Maybe I've opened some eyes and got some questioning. I'll be asking that question next time I speak with some of these people. But so far, I get no information from them. My sources at NASA, 2 have retired out and 1 has died, so I can't get any information from that area either. I have tried in the last several years. And as you said, I'm no expert on it. I'm like everyone else, trying to gather what I can from what sources I can. I speak personally with amateur astronomer friends of mine, and I get the same answer from them that you see online. I don't see it.
Right.
You know, and several of them have said, you know, yes, we've tried infrared filters and such, and we've tried looking exactly where they what is it, IC 5358 or 5853 or something that they're calling Planet X. They say, I just can't see anything out there. Perhaps they don't have enough magnification available or whatever.
Or they're looking via the science that is known here.
Right. Right.
You know, and it's the same question that you and I talked about in private as to, okay, well, we can't see God either, but
exactly.
we can see the manifestation of what might be God, right?
Right. It's
so, yeah.
I believe wholeheartedly in God, and it's not. You remember, the group was Chicago, I think, had a song that said, "I can swear there ain't no heaven, but I pray there ain't no hell."
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
so
right.
my version of that is, if it comes, I'm going to be prepared.
That's right. Yeah. Well, if anything comes, that's the whole point of this particular. Yeah. So, what in your opinion? What is the deal with the chemtrails? Do you know enough to talk about that?
Well, I can tell you they are definitely chemtrails. You can look. I in fact, just a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to someone about them, a new acquaintance here where I now live, and we was talking about chemtrails, and he was one of the scofflaws about it. And he said, "No, that's not chem." I said, "Yeah, well, you see the plane next to it. What?
Yeah, right.
You see, its trail is an apparent 3 inches. The other one's apparent trail is 400 feet. The difference is the one on the right spraying chemicals, the one on the left is just burning fuel.
Right.
You can't deny that. They are at the same relative height, same relative velocity, so there's no other explanation." And some pilot friends that I had met in the earlier days had mentioned that they were being asked to install some devices on the planes, or being told, rather, that devices were being installed on the planes, and they would activate this switch at a certain position, and they questioned why, and were immediately shifted to other routes.
Holy cow.
So that explained a lot to me when the subject of chemtrails did come up.
Yeah, a lot of people, I don't know if you've been online to notice the comments sometimes that people, will state in reference to a chemtrail post or something like that. There's a lot of moles in there, trolls and whatnot that, will just basically debunk the whole chemtrail thing. And so it's just very interesting to hear it from your perspective that you indeed knew people that were instructed to do, or rearrange certain things in an airplane or create certain things, to make this thing function. I mean, that's really interesting.
Well, people also need to be aware, and I'm sure some of your readers and members have had these thoughts. Disinformation is a large division in our government. And there are thousands of people that literally sit at a desk all day and watch websites to see what's going on, what people are talking about, and then they devise ways to debunk it. They come up, they sit there, send it over to another division, they Photoshop videos to put online, and so they can say, "Oh no, this is the real thing. That didn't happen. This has happened." So be aware that a lot of what you read in the debunking section is your government at work.
Yeah, it's just lovely. Now, do you feel and and I kind of know the question. I'm just posing it for you. That the government has infiltrated, or the disinformation agents, or whatever that department that creates what you just described, has reached certain people in the spiritual community, certain people that many of the spiritual community consider leaders, or that are at the forefront of bringing in information about the latest wave.
I'll say that I have no direct evidence of that, but my gut feeling about it from talking with, I've been on a spiritual quest for many, many, many years, and you see this pop up and that pop up, and you go talk to these people, and I've met many of the leaders of the spiritual community, and I'd have to say the answer to your question is absolutely yes. That quite a few of them are being led or pressured or are actual active agents of the government.
Okay. So they're pretending or, acting the part of potentially being spiritual or being whatever, and at the same time they're really carrying out an agenda by bringing in this information. Okay.
Yes. One of the 6 tenets of the Illuminati was to abolish religion. So the more people you pull away from mainstream religion, the more successful your program is.
And not only religion, but now the people who've pulled away from religion and have gotten into this new spirituality thing or new thought thing, they think that that this is the new way, of course, to look at things and whatnot. Then you have the rise of certain leaders within that spiritual group or spiritual community, and I don't want to name names because I just don't want to do that. I'm sure a lot of the listeners can kind of conclude it on their own. But some of them, purport to be scientists and experts on this and communicating with this council and that council and whatnot. And, there's a lot of disinformation for the purpose of misleading and not allowing people to see the reality so that they can be prepared for what we're going to be talking about today. Do you agree with that? Or okay.
I absolutely agree with it. And just so you know, I did buy copies of your books before we had our conversations, and I agree with your books wholeheartedly. And that's exactly what I'm seeing happen in the New Age, New Thought movements is people are jumping on the next horse to ride by and actually being pulled away from where the real connection to source and creator is.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's the danger, where they're going to everything but creator itself, and then that's where they're getting deceived, unfortunately. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to talk about also what you feel about that Zika virus. Do you feel that is another one of their little agendas and disinformation, false campaigns, or whatever they do?
Well, I know that some of the documentation I had seen years ago was discussing biological applications for use against the populace. And my personal opinion at this point, well, again, I have nothing to back this particular thought up, but I believe Zika is the first trial, and they intend to, yes, absolutely, that it, a mosquito travels 4 miles a day, roughly, at high speed with a good tailwind. But this virus has spread so far, so fast, it had to be aided by man.
Sure.
And I say not accidentally. One mosquito can get on an airplane and fly with you across a national border. But when you suddenly have an outbreak in the next country, no, that had to be planted. That was planned and transported en masse and released.
Now, how much of that do you think is made up? In other words, exaggerated, just false information, deception again, where they're just creating these numbers and these cases, and in reality it's probably not even existent. It's just that they're creating the information out there as a psyop.
The reality is that it could well be the old magician's trick of pointing at his left hand that is outstretched while his right hand is concealing the ball.
Right.
Just disinformation. Look over here, smoke and mirrors. Mm-hmm. That is a high probability, and it's one of the things that I have put out feelers on to see, is there any truth to this? I have some contacts in high-level health organizations that shall remain nameless, and so far they say that it looks realistic at their level. Really? Yes. So the possibility is, the probability is high, in my opinion, that this is a trial run to see what will happen if they put a real deadly virus in a mosquito and release it. Oh my goodness! Well, that's definitely the plan. So you have to keep in mind that the plan is to take the population of this world down. Mm-hmm. The word decimation means 10%, and that is their plan, to reduce the population of this world by 90% at some point in the near future. And they may wind up having Nibiru do it for them. That's fine. They feel they're going to be protected. Right. The elite have all these deep underground bunkers and deep underground military bases that they can retreat to. So they feel they're going to be safe from anything that happens. Personally, I feel that if Nibiru is real, and if it does pass within 2 AU of the Earth, that the Earth is going to be shaken apart. Mm-hmm. I don't believe we'll be able to stand the gravitational consequences of that event. Right. So they'll go with us. But if it does not occur that way, then whatever happens to create such catastrophe on this planet, they will be safe, and they intend to stay down there 10 years and then come back out to find the population, struggling with horse and buggies, flint tools. Yeah, back to the Flintstone age, pretty much. Pretty much. Yep. Of course, there's plenty of things that can happen. The economic system could go down, which would really be devastating if you got no way to trade. Yep. Viral eradication we just talked about. If terrorists were to decide to do a simultaneous detonation of anything, the EMP effects alone could take out our grid. Yeah. Anything that most people don't realize that there are only 9 critical points in our electrical grid, and if they know those 9 bag bombs is all it takes to knock out the entire electrical grid of this nation. Wow. And then we're without electricity. Without electricity, there's no fuel to bring food to the grocery stores. There's only 3 days worth of groceries on the shelf at any point in time. Right. I've heard people say, well, I'm okay. I've got natural gas. No, you're not okay. It takes electricity to pump that natural gas to your house. Right. And it doesn't matter what you do. Yes, even your water, yes. If you're on city water, it's going to take electricity. Well, no, we've got a water tower. That's what produces the pressure. Yeah, but how does the water get to that tower? Yep. It is pumped into that tower. So without electricity, everything goes down. Communications, refrigeration. It would be devastating, whatever they do to take that out. And, anything could do it. A Z-pinch, like I said, any type of nuclear device, or just 9 bag bombs, and we are back in the Stone Age in this country. So do you think that they're just kind of waiting for something? I mean, because in my opinion, I think that terrorists are pretty much, our own government. I mean, we're obviously funding a lot of these terrorist groups, especially ISIS. Don't you think that they would already know if it's going to be a terrorist attack that would take down the grid in that way, or that would be an EMP that they already know what to do, and it's just a matter of time? I mean, maybe it's just the timing is off, but maybe they're waiting for maybe another special Illuminati number or something. What are your thoughts on that? Have you ever watched a television series? You just know it's going to end this way.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay, and then you find out a year later, well, we had an alternate ending plan.
Right.
And that's what's going on here right now. They have about 6 scenarios, and whichever one pops up, they don't want everybody to be ready for, the grid to go down or a widespread virus. They want us caught unawares, and the reason they're dragging it out is fear will kill a lot of people.
So do you think they're gauging or pretty much assessing us to see, okay, well, we'll introduce the Zika virus and then we'll do this and we'll do that, and they see how we respond. And based on how we respond, then they do, they take out Plan D. Plan D, well, that'll take you totally unexpected, and then you're now you're totally unprepared. Do you think that
Absolutely.
That's pretty much what they're doing? Yeah.
It's called shock testing. They did it several years ago with gasoline prices. Gasoline went over $4 a gallon just to see how much we would bear. Mm-hmm. You want to see how much stress an airplane will take? Put it into a deep climb at full power. If the wings break off, you know where your point was.
Right.
And that's what they're doing with us. When the wings break off and we start fighting back, literally fighting back, not just talking about it,
right,
then they'll know, okay, we've reached the breaking point. Now we release Plan Z, And you mentioned the Islamic terrorists. I doubt very seriously if many people in this nation understand how close they are. Where I am,
how close? Yeah.
I am 50 miles from a Muslim terrorist training camp. I know for a fact that every state in the union has got a minimum of 3. I moved from another state last year, and there were 3 in it, and I would have never thought it. But they are there. I went and saw 2 of them, my personal self. Got to the gates and saw Muslims standing there with machine guns ready to turn me away. I just kept on driving by. And they're everywhere.
And our government knows about that, right?
Our government brought them here, supports them, and protects them. I know that for a fact because I have an uncle who is a sheriff. And I asked him one day, that was about 3 years ago, I said, why are they here? Why can't you go take them out? I mean, they've got illegal weapons in there. I get orders from DOJ, Department of Justice. I am not to touch them. And if you go try to do anything about it, I have to arrest you.
Oh, wow.
They're here for a reason. They're protected for a reason. My personal thoughts on it are that the government will release them to do a huge amount of damage, and that will then give the government a reason to bypass posse comitatus and bring the armed forces onto American soil on the pretense of eradicating the terrorists.
Sure.
There's just going to be a lot of collateral damage at the time, unfortunately. So if you get my drift there.
Definitely. Wow. Wow. Okay. Very nice. What?
And most people, this just flashed back into my mind. There, most people do know that our current commander-in-chief has issued more presidential directives than the rest of the presidents combined. And ED 13603 says that he has the right, the government has the right to take everything. Any fuel you have, any food you have, any medicine you have, any transportation device that you have, any weaponry that you have, any clothing that you have. 13603 gives him the right to come get it. And all he has to do to bring that into effect is martial law. What would make him declare martial law? How about a viral outbreak? How about the impending collapse of the American dollar? How about sudden power outages all across the Southwest, spreading eastward? Any of the things we've talked about empowers him to declare martial law and put 13603 into effect.
Do you? There's some rumors that there may not even be an election. Have you heard of that?
I have actually heard from some military friends that there are rumors, again, at their levels, which are fairly high, that there will not be an election this year, that a couple of weeks before the election, some event will occur to enable him to declare martial law, at which point he declares himself president for life. And that, with dealing with this maniac, that's a high possibility, I think.
Wow.
I really, truly feel the man is mentally unstable, and, even though he is a puppet.
Sure.
We all have to agree to that. He's being wiggled on somebody else's finger, but he is mentally unstable, and as long as he holds that office, whatever he says do, they say how high and what color. Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty scary for some people, I'm sure.
I hope so.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that a lot of the information you're sharing is information that a lot of us have heard at some level.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Maybe we've heard it, and it's a possibility. You're being really negative, that type of thing, and so we don't really take it seriously. But just I guess hearing it from somebody that has been in the inside and can attest to what these people are capable of, I felt might help in just assessing the seriousness of the situation.
That's the reason I'm here. I want them to understand this is as serious as it gets.
Yeah. So what do people need to do? Okay, let's pretend that it's not a Planet X situation for right now, because that would require a totally different type of thing. You really need to get yourself out of certain areas. You really need to get, and we can discuss that too, that potential too. But let's discuss what you definitely know for a fact, okay? Because that one you can definitely, share with us from experience.
Right.
What do we need to do individually and hopefully collectively maybe to get us through these potentially trying times that might be coming ahead more than likely sooner than later?
The short answer is it would fill volumes. But to get it into perspective, there is a definite list of things that you need to survive. And, you can break that box down into just 8 compartments, I believe, is what I had on it. Let's see where I got that. Of course, shelter. Whatever happens, if you're in a city, you are not going to be safe.
Right.
Because whatever happens to bring this country to its knees, the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to run out of food. Everyone will run out of food.
Sure.
And when they run out of food, they will kill to get food.
Yeah.
And who is the best armed and most feared contingent on American streets today? The gangs. Mm-hmm. They are going to be roving, raping, roaming, pillaging, stealing whatever they can get.
Well, they're doing it now, so it's no.
Well, of course they are. Yeah. But at that point in time, it will become on a large scale and widespread. Yeah. So, if you're in the city, I've seen survivalists for years talk about the choice between hunker down in place and a bug out location. I see no alternative. Find a bug out location. You want somewhere that is far away from any target areas. You want something that is convenient to water, some way to grow food, produce your own food, animals, produce, whatever, but shelter is your number one priority. Then you need food production, preservation, and storage, energy production and storage. Health care is vital. security and protection is a big one. I should have probably put that number one on my list, because it doesn't matter if you're building a lean-to for your family to stay in while you build a cabin. You've got to secure that location that you're in.
Sure.
You're going to need communication, both on the site and off the site, beyond it. You've got to rebuild, renew, and repair your community as it grows and ages. And if we're talking about the situations that we have discussed, you need to consider generational continuity.
Mm-hmm.
You need the community to survive. You can't, a community of 70-year-old people is not going to make it. You're going to have some younger people, and you're going to have babies.
Yeah.
In order to make this thing multi-generational, it's got to keep going. So that's the top 8 items that you're going to have. And I'm sure most people have discussed that before, but what do you really want to do there? As I said earlier, I think maybe security and protection should have been my number one on my list. But consider if you're building, if you have a bug out location of 4 acres or 10 acres or whatever, and you and 2 of your neighbor families are going to go in on this, the first thing you need to consider is staying secreted. You don't want to build a house on the road. Mm-hmm. And in fact, you should not have your bug out location located near a major highway.
Right.
You want to be so far out in the woods, you have to pump in sunshine, they used to say. Mm-hmm. Because this is your life. You're fighting for your life. Right. Get a place where you can stay secreted, stay protected. Underground shelters are easy to build, easy to hide, easy to heat and cool. So, I'm leaning towards a bag house in a hill somewhere. Mm-hmm. And when you talk about animal production, raising your animals, you can even build a barn and cover it up. If you have to half bury it and then pile dirt around it and let plant weeds so it'll grow over it, just don't have a roof visible to the air. Some of these gangs are pretty sophisticated. We know our government is. So the number one thought in my mind is aerial surveillance. Drones are inexpensive these days. You can get one for $40, fly over an area and come back and download it to your laptop and see who's where. I don't want that happening.
Electricity.
Well, electricity is actually the easiest of the whole thing here. Electricity is our best choice for energy. I've heard people say, "Well, I've got kerosene lamps." Sure, you do. Well, where are you going to get kerosene? Mm-hmm. Well, I've got Coleman lamps. Okay, where are you going to get propane or Coleman fuel? Electricity will last, and you can make it yourself very easily. Solar panels will generate electricity. You can take a water wheel on a dam, pulling a alternator out of an old Ford truck, and recharge batteries. Mm-hmm. My place has got refrigeration. I'm not worried about losing my refrigeration when it goes out. The electricity is not that much to run a refrigerator. I've heard people say, "Well, I want one of these that they got in campers." They're called absorption type refrigeration, and they're fine, but they're tricky. Right. And they're temperamental. They will fail, and when they fail, it's not something that your handyman down the street that you met can fix. There's only, I think, 3 locations in the entire United States that can recharge an absorption refrigerator if it develops a leak. And they won't be available, and they wouldn't be able to do the work if you could get to them. Right. So a standard refrigerator will work, and there's alternatives to that even. There's I saw something just the other day about how to make a pot, a big flower pot, do evaporative cooling. And that will keep your food cool enough. But, electricity is an easy task to do. Some batteries out of cars and a couple of alternators to charge them up, inverters to take that 12 volts and make it into 110 volts. I've got 5 inverters so that the load in my house is spread around and no one spot. If one of my inverters goes out, I lose lights in the living room. I lose my ability to play back DVDs. But my laptop can come into the kitchen and plug it up. All of my survival information that I've cataloged over the years, I keep it on my laptop. I back that laptop, all that information up to an external hard drive once a week. And then I back that hard drive up to another hard drive. And those are wrapped in about 10 layers of tinfoil, put in metal ammo boxes, and buried in the woods. And once a week I traipse out there, dig them back up, bring them back in. But they're protected from EMPs.
Right. Yeah.
So in the event, it's a biggie. It's a biggie, because there are too many scenarios that revolve around those three little letters. Too many things could cause it, things beyond our control, whether you're talking about a terrorist attack or a CME, EMPs are a big worry. So you need to prepare for that, keep all of your communications gear well shielded, and have backups for backups. You
Definitely.
don't want one copy of anything. If you've got one axe in your tool shed, you need 4.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be living there for the next 30 years while this nation rebuilds.
Definitely. Agent K, I was going to ask if you could go through a potential scenario where an individual doesn't, take heed of the information that we're sharing, and decide to, just wait. Hey, everything seems cool. Everything seems calm. It's no, no big deal. It's the same type of information that we're getting every single day, so it's nothing really to worry about. We're always hearing about the stock market going up and going down, and the same scenario. So why do I have to worry? And then all of a sudden something happens, and now they find themselves in the middle of a city, and they have to, go across maybe, forest or whatever, just to find themselves a location at that point. Is there anything you can share with the audience as to what they should do in the event that they do find themselves going on foot, trying to find a safe, haven, a safe location, or finding maybe other people that are that they can, be with, so that they can form a community? My concern is that they're out there, they haven't prepared really, and so what can they do immediately, like right now, to maybe get themselves a bug-out bag or something, and what should they be concerned with in the event that they do have to go on, by foot?
Well, if you're going to wait that long, you're going to really be taking your chances. You're going to be looking, number one, at several days, possibly several weeks on foot travel. Can you carry that much food with you?
Right.
Can you carry that much water with you? Do you know how many quarts of water a person will need a day? About 8 quarts. Because you're going to sweat a lot when you're traveling on foot. If you're pulling wagons, if you're toting a backpack, you're going to go through a lot of water. I don't think you can possibly carry enough water and food with you, much less the other things that you will need. Tools, weapons, ammunition, medication. What if you have a small child? Baby supply. What are you going to do? If you believe a word of what you have heard, you should immediately determine a bug-out location and start caching goods in that location in some manner, enclosed in PVC pipe, glued together, or find you a used tractor trailer and bury it on the property, something. But if you're on foot, your chances are infinitesimally small. I hate to say it, but that is just truth. If you see it on the news, it's probably too late for you.
Oh, yeah. You're exposed to the elements. You're exposed to wild animals. You're exposed to potentially people, trying to get whatever you've got on you.
And everyone will be wary of people walking through. they may shoot first and try to question the dead bodies.
Yeah.
That's a very high likelihood. If it comes down to the end and I see someone walking across my property, they better stop when I say stop.
Yeah. Yeah, it becomes a totally different game at that point, doesn't it? I mean,
absolutely. Absolutely.
I think ethics and morals are out the window at some point. At that point,
people will turn to animals. There is no doubt about it. It's been proven time and again throughout history. They will turn to animals. They will absolutely no regard for their fellow man. It is every man for himself.
Yeah. So if you have a location, okay, that you've picked out, or you've got a location now, and I know that there are many people on the call right now that do. What should they be doing? Just as a reminder, and a lot of them are probably already doing it anyway. But what should they be doing now if they've already selected? Maybe they have an acre or 2 acres, maybe 10 acres, whatever they may have. What should they be doing right now?
Well, as I said before, you need to start thinking in the long term, not the short term, and include things like, how often am I going to have to replace this axe? Because it's going to break. The head is going to be sharpened so many times it will not sharpen again. You're going to need multiple copies of every tool you use to cut wood, to tend your garden, hoes, rakes, shovels. You've definitely got to get heritage seeds. And I had someone question me the other day, well, what's a heritage seed? They didn't understand that Monsanto has got us so tied up in their production system that the food you buy on the shelf today, you can't take any of it and make another plant from it.
Right.
You can't buy seed from most of the companies out there and plant a garden and know that that garden will produce seed for next year. You have to buy seeds that are marked heritage seeds. That means they will give you a heritage, a legacy down the line. They will produce seed that will produce more plants next year. So your food production is vital, and you better have 6 to 12 months worth of survival type food cached already or soon. Most people, a large number of the deaths in the first year will occur due to starvation during winter, just like the first year we were in America. Because people won't be prepared. They will not have a crop in the ground. If for instance, if next November rolls around and it happens, as I said, and Obama declares himself president for life, puts us under martial law, and everything goes down, that's the wrong time of the year for this to happen.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to live off of what you have stored for that winter and throughout the growing season that is to come. So you will need a minimum of 9 months of food.
Yep.
How much does it take to feed your family of 4 for 9 months? That's a real big consideration.
Yep.
Start thinking in terms of energy. Even if you've got rechargeable lights and rechargeable batteries, and how am I going to make the 110 volts to run the charger to make those batteries come back to life? How am I going to heat this place? Frankly, I have hot and cold running water that is heated from my wood stove. That's not a hard trick.
You got cold water to come from your wood stove?
Well, I have cold water going to the wood stove, but my well supplies cold water, and part of that goes into the plumbing system. Part of it goes to the wood stove and then into the plumbing system and storage tanks. If the heat went out and I was sick and couldn't chop wood for a week, I've still got enough hot water stored to provide heat to a couple of rooms of my house for a week. All of these things they're very simple if you put a little time into research. Medicine. Most people don't think about medicines. What does a grandpa need? Okay, what do I need? I'm a diabetic. I've got to have my medicine, so I'm going to 4 different doctors and getting medicine. Now, my insurance won't pay for it. because of the computer tracking systems these days. You go to this pharmacist and your insurance pays for that one. Then you go to one in another city, but as soon as they plug it into the computer, your insurance company says, "Oh, wait a minute, he just filled it down at John's in the next town."
Right.
So what you have to do is pay for it yourself. Let the insurance pick up the first set, and then you pick up the next 3. But go to several doctors, get several copies of your prescriptions, get them filled, and get them cashed. People think drugs run out of date. I had a brother-in-law who was a pharmacist. Rest his soul, he died last year. Told me that drugs lose their efficiency at a rate of 5% per year. So the first year they're on the shelf, they're still 95% as potent as they originally were. The next year, they're still 91% as potent. So, 10 years later, you've still got a viable drug.
Yeah.
It's just not as potent. You may have to take 2 instead of 1.
Right.
So stockpile the drugs that you need. And, of course, first aid supplies and such. If you can, align yourself with a doctor. Doctors don't have much time to do this thing. Make a deal with them. I'll make room for you and your family if you'll be sure to take care of mine.
Right.
Those things are quite possible. But everybody has to sit down and think about what they're going to need. What are the things you use every day?
Yeah.
You can still carry this life on.
What about bargaining items, things that you're going to have to barter with, assuming that there is no more dollar, that the dollar is worthless, that everything collapsed to that point. Mm-hmm. A lot of people have the, I would say, erroneous idea that collecting gold and silver is a good idea. My opinion on that is that it's only as good as if the rest of society is accepting it. If I happen to have a couple of chickens and my chickens are producing eggs, I'm certainly not going to take a gold coin from somebody, in exchange for eggs, when I can't use that gold coin for anything else. So and you can't eat the gold coin. So, what do you suggest for barter?
Well, I'm with you on that one, Ari. I think that the most potent form of currency after the fall will be food, medicine, or livestock, or perhaps care. Ammunition will always be in high demand. So if you've got 50,000 rounds of 9mm ammo, you can barter that for just about anything you want. I mean, you can sell 50 rounds of it for a cow at that point in time. Right. People are not paying attention. They're not stockpiling things that they're going to need. But I'm with you 100%. The most valuable commodity will be food.
So
things that produce
food. Seeds.
Yeah.
Seeds would be one. Okay. What about spices, salt, sugar, that type of thing? I guess that would be important, huh?
Well, yeah. Unless I'm advising everyone to find a crop that will produce sugar, like sugar cane or sugar beet. We used to do that on the farm I was raised in. We raised sugar beets and processed them. So, that's always a viable option. But if you've got the wherewithal, put as much salt, pepper, sugar as you can into a cache and hold on to it, thousands of pounds, literally. Think about how much sugar you go through every year. And by all means, make it organic, please, not this processed white stuff.
Yeah. Really?
But, anything that you can't produce is going to be valuable. People maybe everybody around you has chickens and has eggs and doesn't need any more chickens or eggs, but they may need glue to put leather goods together with. They may need needle and thread to sew with. They forgot to do that. Right. So all of these little things.
I was even thinking cigarettes, booze, that type of thing.
If you're of that bent, yes, absolutely. Yeah. But there's going to be a point in time when nobody's going to be smoking or dipping anymore.
That's true. That's true.
We'll still be drinking, but it'll be moonshine.
Right. That's true. Well, I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to to discuss with us, with respect to getting ready, getting prepared. I mean, I know it's like exactly what you said, that we're just basically talking generalities right here. What I think people need to do is, if they haven't done this yet, is to either get themselves a good book on preparation. I know that there's plenty of them out there in Amazon, how to prepare. I think there's one book that I particularly own. It's called When Technology Fails, which is really good. It gives you a lot of different ideas of things that you need to start acquiring, things that you need to do to start getting prepared. And do you recommend anything else right before we open up the calls for questions?
Well, there's one subject we didn't touch on real big, and that was energy. But a subsection of that is fuel.
Right.
If you've got a tractor or a tiller that runs on gasoline, what can I do with that? Well, you can cache the fuel that you need, whether it's diesel or gasoline or whatever. Gasoline, of course, does deteriorate over time. But let's take for instance, let's say you get these 750-gallon polypropylene tanks. Everybody's seen them, in the big heavy wire cage. You get 4 or 5 of those, fill them up with gasoline. You'll have to put an expansion system on it, so that, because gasoline expands rapidly when it gets warm. So in the summertime, it'll take up, I think another 7% of its volume. But put it in these tanks. Add a stabilizing product such as Sta-Bil. I hate to plug them, but they're one of the best out there. Add that to the gasoline, and then put a nitrogen blanket on top of it. And what that means is you pump nitrogen gas on. Pump is the wrong word. You put nitrogen gas onto the top of the gasoline to replace the oxygen that's in the tank.
Okay.
It's the oxygen that causes the degradation.
Okay.
And nitrogen is readily available from any welding supply store. You'll have to have the proper regulators and fittings and hoses, but you can store gasoline for decades. You really can. Most people don't understand that. You can also make ethanol from practically any crop that you grow. Of course, corn is the most popular. And ethanol is just alcohol. You can mix that with gasoline that you have cached, or you can run your engine directly off of ethanol. Most people do not think about it, but gasoline engines will run on practically any flammable fluid, alcohol being its next favorite food. The problem is that alcohol burns hotter than gasoline, and it will soften the valves and valve seats in the engine. So it'd be nice to know a little bit about mechanics and be able to repair it or have a spare engine. My wife gets on to me because I have probably 20 lawnmowers in the back 40 here covered up and buried. And why? Because I want those motors.
Right.
When something goes bad, I can take the motor off of one of those and replace it. And another one, a really interesting idea for me when I first learned about it, was wood gas. Wood gas is formed when you burn anything. I don't care what it is. If you have a campfire, what the flames are is really the gas from the wood being evaporated out by the heat. The gas from the wood is what is burning, not the wood itself.
Wow.
Now, if you burn wood in an anaerobic, meaning without air, atmosphere, take an old water heater, cut it open, put a firebox in it, close it up, burn wood in that, and what you get out the top is wood gas that will run a gasoline engine.
Oh, wow.
It's an amazing process. Read up on it because it's simple yet complicated, and you have to have the right gear to deal with it. You've got to filter it, number one, because it's a dirty substance. But it will run your tiller, your lawnmower, your car, truck, tractor. Any gasoline engine can run off of wood gas. And it's really simple to build once you look up on it a little bit.
Now, what about biofuel? Do you know anything about that?
Biodiesel is a real possibility, and it's very easy to do, of course. The problem with biodiesel is you don't find small engines that are diesels. You might have a diesel tractor on your farm to plow your fields and such, but your chainsaw is not going to run on diesel.
Well, what I'm talking about is the fuel that comes out of or the methane that comes out of the actual excrement from potential animals that you might have on your farm or your piece of land.
Ah, okay. I see your point. And absolutely correct. Anything that runs on gasoline or needs a flame, such as a gas water heater or a gas stove or a gas heater of any sort, can run on the methane from a septic system.
Okay.
Even generators. And I proved that several years ago. I had one on one of my little getaway houses, and came in to find that all the power lines were down. I was out of gasoline, and the house was cold. So I got my little cordless drill out, went and drilled a hole in my line in my septic system, and run some piping, and fired that little rascal right up.
Cool.
Methane kills also. I've lost friends that were in the septic tank business that jumped down in a tank because they sent the neophyte down, and he collapsed from methane insulation, and then another guy went after him, and all three of them died.
Wow. So
you be careful with methane. Don't use it in an enclosed space, or have some sort of breathing apparatus. If it's just a snorkel going out the wall, have some way to breathe if you're in an enclosed space with it. But it's very simple to do. And again, it's one of those things that is covered in detail in quite a few books out there that you can get anywhere.
Well, exactly.
I'm glad you reminded me of that.
Yeah, well, I'm addressing the people that probably have farm animals and that they can collect all the manure. And I know that there are places that are really, really, they train people how to, collect this stuff and turn it into fuel. So, it's kind of like a wonderful thing. It's synergistic in a way, where everything helps each other out. So,
and I know one fellow that has his compost pile is very large, and he adds manure from the animals and straw and other degradables into that. And in the middle of it, he has a water loop. And out of that, he draws 140-degree water to heat his home.
Wow.
There are so many variations of this. Use a little ingenuity in your search process, and you'll find so many things that you can do.
And another thing I wanted to talk about, aside from what we've been talking about fuel here, is to make sure that everybody has a good filter. That in the event that our water, tap water isn't working because there's no electricity or whatever, people really need to be able to filter their water from for any reason. If the water isn't coming out of your faucet anymore, and hopefully you're not in your house, hopefully you went somewhere else. If you have to use raw water, you really need a good filter to be able to drink that water. Or if you're collecting rainwater from the the roof of your house or whatever, you definitely need to filter that, because we don't know what the heck is in that rainwater. So
as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter what the source, you can't trust it until you filter
That's true.
it.
That's right.
And if I'm going to put a shameless plug here. My favorite is the Berkey.
Oh, okay.
It is the most effective one out there.
Yep, that's mine too. That is definitely true. So do you think that for today we're pretty good? We've kind of covered we've covered a lot. A lot of it, of course, is just a lot of general information. People really have to start getting their information either from books, or if they're already knowing about this, start really paying attention to getting several copies of whatever it is that, like you were mentioning, is you're absolutely correct. If you have a shovel, if that thing breaks, where are you going to get another one? It's going to be a while if you come across another one. So, we're talking about, bad times, potentially bad times. And I always say, if we are, capable of preparing for a hurricane, or, just maybe even for potential war or something like that, well, just pretend that this is like bad weather time, and you really get extra, medicines, get extra things that you might need for your kids, for the elderly, They're going to, they're going to suffer a lot. And, this is for real, guys. I mean, this is not something that are, in fairy tales anymore. This is we're living that. We can see it. We can see it. So I'm going to open up this particular call to other people, and so I'm going to unmute. Let me see here. I'm going to mute people, and I know that we have a couple of people, I think, that are interested in asking questions. So if you have a question that you might want to ask Agent K about anything that has been discussed now or just something else related to this call, I would appreciate you putting the last 4 digits of your phone number in the chat room for the 2012emergence.com site under main room. That way I'll know that you're interested in asking a question, and I'll just start calling on you. When you get on, just put, if you're unmuted, then put *6 so you can unmute yourself. And once you finish your question, please put *6 again so you can mute yourself again. And just make sure that you state your name, okay? Just make sure the question is concise and short and to the point. Don't have any more questions other than that so that other people can ask as well, okay? All right, so I've got the caller 4920. Can you come on the call and ask your question?
Yeah, it's Mark.
Hi, Mark.
Okay, good.
Hello, Mark.
Yeah. So far, I have got the Patriot Supply seeds. Okay, so those are heirloom seeds. I've got I've got a radio. I've got 3 crank LED lanterns. I've got that. I've got enough food for 6 months. Okay, I've bought an $80 deep well bucket from Lehman's that will actually fit down those narrow, deep wells. Okay, I've got that. I've got a crossbow. I don't have a gun. And that's all I got. Now, I don't have heat in my house, and I'm just going to have to rough it because I don't have a stove or anything. And I can't afford that, so.
Right.
Oops. So, I think I'm cool.
So what is your question,
Mark? The question was, getting back to, you said you were part of, now this is get on a little lighter end of this doom and gloom stuff. You said you were doing a lot of the drug trade for the Iran-Contra?
Back before Iran-Contra.
Right. I remember when I was a kid in the 80s and we were in high school and we couldn't get any dope. And all of a sudden we started getting this block hash. And there was hashish everywhere.
Black Afghani tar hash.
It was black Afghani tar hash. And were we helping out little Ollie North there in his little gun trade?
Well, as I said, that was before Oliver North. Ollie wasn't. He was.
Because we're talking about
transitioning a little bit there.
This is going to be 76, 77, 78.
Yeah.
I can't remember what exactly one year was, but there was like 6 months where there was nothing but hash, and it was everywhere.
I remember that well, and actually I know the guy that did that, but that was not part of my op. But I was friends with the guy who was the largest marijuana smuggler in America at the time. And this was before Black Tuna.
We just want to say that, we were all very grateful. We really were. That was great stuff. We just want to say thanks. All the nefarious shit that goes down, the mass murders and all that, that was the one great thing you guys did. And we just wanted to say thank you.
I'll pass that on next time I speak to Ken.
Thank you. All right, I'm done.
Get a gun, Mark.
Yeah, I need one. I do.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks.
You're welcome. Next.
Does anybody have another question? If you have a question, if you haven't put it in the chat room, then speak up, because I have no way of knowing if you're not on the chat room and letting me know what the last 4 digits of your phone number are. No questions? Well, it looks like you've been extremely thorough, Agent K.
Well, there are still a couple of things I have not mentioned.
Go ahead.
Frankly,
Go right ahead.
I talked earlier about making sure your location is secreted and unobservable. You want to be away from major roadways, waterways, airports, and towns and target areas. You want to be on a high ground so that you've got a good view down below you. You also want to be away from a stream, actually, because...
Really?
Yes, because most people will follow a stream. If they've got nothing else to follow, a stream is going to take you in a particular direction, and they expect people to be located close by water.
Wow.
Because it's vital. But
I never thought of that.
You can build uphill, and there's a simple device called a round pump. It's the most inefficient thing ever designed, but it will take practically any head of water. For instance, if your stream is 6 inches deep, you can cut a little hole in it, a couple of feet square and a couple of feet deep for the water to pour into, to operate a round pump that will pump water 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, uphill to you. So you don't have to build right on the stream, and you can still get water easily.
Very smart.
There are many, many things like that, and practically all of these things that I've talked about tonight can be found on books on Amazon or on YouTube.
You know what the unfortunate part is, though, Agent K, is that I don't know that how much time we have left for any of this.
That's the important factor.
And going in and getting a book, and what book do you get, and do you have time to read it, and did you understand what you read, and are you going to have the money to buy whatever it is that they're telling you to buy? I mean, really, it's one thing we haven't touched on is there are thousands of sustainable living communities out there that are actually looking for participants. Well, we are.
Or have more room.
I have one that's called Pandora that we're setting up in Tennessee. I told you about that, and
right.
And I got some really good people on there now, and we're vetting people that are applying to it. Obviously, we do vet. We don't want anybody just showing up and saying they're one thing and then really they're something else.
Well, no matter what, if you're running an SLC and the end comes and you've got this sudden influx of people showing up saying, "Oh, we heard about you on the internet." Now
right.
They're not going to get in the gate.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because they're already full up.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons too that we keep ours kind of like incognito. In a way, it's not incognito. It's the fact that we want to make sure that we're under the radar as much as we can. I know that I've done the invitation a couple of times to people on the site. Because there's a tendency to be spiritual. There's a tendency to have these kindred type of mindset that I'm looking for to show up there. But in reality, we're looking for people that are interested in uniting with others that are, want to be able to make it through these hard times. A lot of us are really alone, and we have the vaguest idea what to do first. So, and again, I'll just take this opportunity to invite anybody who's interested in finding out a little bit more about the community that I've put together along with Tom. I always, say please contact Tom Moore about this. And if you guys are interested in knowing more about it, then please contact him. I know that he changed the email address to, and I'll spell it out in case you guys want it. It's P like Paul, A, N like Nancy, D like David, then P again, R, O, J like Jam, D like David, I-R. So it's pandprojdir, so for Pandora Project Director at yahoo.com. If you guys didn't get it, then email me personally at ari@shatteringthematrix.com, and I will go ahead and then forward the information to Tom, and he'll be more than happy to answer any questions. And if you're interested in possibly applying, then he'll send you an application. But I think that people should know that that particular location has been determined by people that do these kind of studies about, where your property is at, the potentials for nuclear fallout, for any major earthquakes, all that stuff. It's passed. So it's safe, at least from that type of, detrimental conditions, So, and we're just, again, looking for really good people. Anyway.
I'm breaking protocol.
I'm sorry?
Could you just type that in the chat line, address?
That's a great idea. I will definitely do that. Let me get to the chat line.
While you're doing that.
Yeah.
While you're typing that in, Ari, I'll take a moment to tell the listeners that the conversations you and I have had over the past several months about your project have really lightened my heart. I think it's a great idea. I think you're going about it the right way, and I guarantee you, if I didn't already have my place set up, I would be applying there.
Well, I appreciate that.
I think you're going about it the right way, honestly.
I wish you would. Either way. We could definitely use your help. Let's see here, pandprojdir. Okay, so one of the things we're doing in Pandora is we are training people to become sustainable, which is really important. We have a group of experts in different kinds of fields of how to create fuel, of how to do this, how to do that, how to jimmy rig that, how to grow food with aquaponics, how to protect yourself. All these things are going to be available there as well. So that's the kind of stuff that you might want to address with Tom, because I know that we're taking basically applications for possible interns that might want to be part of learning this
That's
stuff.
great.
Like crash course, okay? Because it's basically a crash course. Because we don't know when whatever is going to happen is going to happen. So we've got to take whatever opportunity we have where things are calm to be able to get trained in as many things as possible, so that we can take that information back with us to wherever we're going to be.
That's the important thing is time.
Yeah, and if you do want to be part of the community, once you're there and you train and you look at it and you say, you know what, I think I want to be part of this community, then that's a totally different process as well. Mm-hmm. So any other questions? Did everybody get if you're on the site, you can see the email for the Pandora thing. And if anybody has any other questions or any other comments or anything like that, we're going to call it. You know what? I do have someone that I want to bring on real quick, since we do still have time. Candy, are you on the call?
Yes, I'm on the call.
Oh, awesome. All right. The reason I'm bringing Candy on is because she's got some really interesting information. For those of you who stayed on, I guess this will be a little bonus. She and I have been talking, and she has information about things that have happened with someone that she knows with respect to our commander-in-chief right now that I thought was very, very interesting and will open up your eyes further. So, Candy, you want to share what you shared with me?
Okay. A member of my family works directly for our current commander-in-chief and usually travels with him. And not too long ago, a couple of years ago now, towards the end of his first administration, this particular person came to me very disillusioned. And I asked him why, and he said that he had gone on a trip that was unannounced to Europe and had visited 3 individual military bases. And he wouldn't name them, of course, but he said that at the first military base, everybody was told that the president was showing up unannounced and please, be there for the conference, et cetera, et cetera. And he asked them if they would be willing to change their oath of office from protecting the Constitution to swearing allegiance to the president himself. And most people were there under duress, as it was anyway, but they were very disconcerted by that. We're not happy at all. The second base, the word had gotten out that that's what he was asking. And people either didn't show up or refused to answer. And by the third base, everybody knew about it and either didn't show up or literally turned their back on him. which I find kind of encouraging, but I was a little discouraged to begin with to think that he would have the audacity to do that. So under those circumstances, if he's capable of spending all that money to travel to a military base just to ask somebody to change their oath of office, then I think we need to rethink what he is capable of doing.
So do you think he was testing the waters to see what the military was willing to do?
Absolutely. Because there's a lot of talk now about the oath takers and who they are and what they're planning to do in the event of some sort of a government overthrow. And I think I think it was sort of a fishing expedition to see how many of them there were and how much influence they had on the other people.
Right. Wow. Well, crazy. I mean, it's again, we kind of suspect stuff like that's going on behind the scenes, but to hear it coming from somebody that you know personally and that this really did happen is like something totally different. It's like, oh dear. I mean, it's like, I wish it wasn't true,
Well, there's been a number of situations where, he was the first president to actually carry a cell phone. And by default, he wanted all of his people to be in communication, quote unquote. So most everybody around him at that time were carrying cell phones as well. And I saw, a videotape of him literally pitching a 2-year-old tantrum because there wasn't some red button someplace on Air Force One to get it to do something that he thought it should do. And, ultimately it was for his own safety, but he thought he should be able to do that by just pushing a button, and it wasn't. That capability wasn't there. And he just literally pitched a 2-year-old tantrum on the floor, kicking his hands in his feet.
And you saw this on the cell phone recording?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting. Well, not stable. Obviously not all. There's a couple of screws missing, and then this is the person that's in charge, and that's unfortunate. And God forbid if something happens that at the end of the election situation that requires him to stay on. Well, we're going to be in for a ride. So again, everyone.
I just saw a thing that said Jeb Bush has retired from the presidential race. He just announced it a few minutes ago. So
he did, huh? Oh wow.
Yeah,
well, this is interesting.
To thin out.
That's good news.
Yeah, this is interesting.
And if I could interject,
definitely.
I'm glad you brought this person online here because it reminds me that I had heard that same thing from a separate source quite a few months ago.
Oh wow.
And I wondered what on earth is going on here. So this confirms what I had heard also.
So you're talking about you heard the part where he had gone to different bases and asked this of the servicemen?
Yes, that's what I'm speaking about.
So that's,
I don't know about that one.
That's confirmed. Interesting.
Right.
That's not good. That's very bad news, in my opinion.
Well, it is, but it goes hand in glove with everything else that we've heard about him. For instance, that by election time he will declare martial law. I don't put anything past him at this point, and it would seem prudent in his position to try to secure his position with the military as their COC so that he could make sure they were going to be behind him. But the figures I get from my friends in the military are that roughly 70 to 80% of the military will not back him in a play against Americans.
Right, so that's why he'll probably have to bring other troops in here, like UN something.
Well, we think that's why the Muslims are here. And, because if that's the excuse, then you see, then these other, he's got only 30% on his side now. Maybe the rest of them will come in if they say, the Muslims are invading our country. Right. Then they might get behind him. So there's a method to the madness there, I think.
Sure. Yeah. Just bear with me. Maybe we have. Let's see here. The mark says that people will not back him now. Okay. Yeah. Well, a lot of people are just very, sick and tired of him, and they see right through the BS. But he's already signed off a lot of our rights already.
Absolutely.
So he's just one hiccup away from just pretty much declaring himself tyrant and, dictator and whatever you want to call it, So,
Oh, it only takes 700 cases of Zika virus for him to be allowed to declare martial law.
I'm sorry, how many cases?
1,700.
1,700 cases of Zika virus where in the United States
within
here?
the continental United States.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you have any idea how many cases we have now?
A little over 300, I think.
Okay. Wow. Well, guys, I'm telling you, I think we really need to take this very seriously. And, if you haven't made your preparations, if you don't have a place to go, start thinking about that,
Absolutely.
And if you need to, once this thing goes up, it will go up on YouTube. And just go ahead and share this with your friends, your family members, your neighbors, the ones that just don't believe in any of this, and let them know what's going on behind the scenes, because the only way to get this, I think, get through this is to get together. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello? Okay. To come together, to pool together our own efforts and resources, because we can't go at this alone. We really can't. A lot of us may not have the funds to be able to pull this off, but maybe your neighbor has, maybe some of the materials or maybe some funds, and we just collectively start pulling together and becoming a community that way, even if it's in your own neighborhood. Hopefully you're not in a very big city. If you are in a big city, then as per Agent K's suggestion, and I'm sure you've heard it many other times, is you really need to move away from big cities if you can. So think about that, and if the worst-case scenario happens, which is, of course, would be a Planet X situation, well, then we're talking about a totally different strategy, and, that's a bad one. I think we will have to tackle that at a different day because it's just a totally different strategy, I think. Don't you agree, Agent K?
I don't think there's a strategy possible.
Yeah.
I seriously don't.
Because we don't even know where any of it,
Extinction Level Event is just that. It means the end of life, period. Not just the end of the world as we know it, but the end of all life on this planet.
Yeah.
So that's the point where
although they say, of course, it's been here before and other people do make it, but we don't know. It's almost potluck at that point. It's like
True.
Who makes it, who doesn't. But, of course, we're going to try everything we can to obviously have a continuation of the species. So that's why we try. But
one of my oldest friends says that there are no safe places, only safe people.
That's right.
It's where you are in relation to God.
With that, absolutely. With that, I'm going to leave you all. I'm hoping that you all heed to the warnings that this is possible, down the pike, and that you are doing everything possible to protect yourselves, your loved ones, your families, your elderly, your children. Do everything you can, please, to take this, very seriously. And, whatever it takes, get a hold of Tom Moore if you have any questions on what to do, how to prepare. He'll be more than happy to answer questions. And if you need to get a hold of me, again, it's Ari at shatteringthematrix.com. Thank you very much for being on this call, Agent K. I really appreciate you being with us and sharing all this information with us and being so candid. Appreciate that. And to all the audience that's listening, thank you very much for joining us. You've been listening to Ari Kopel at Shattering the Matrix. You all have a very good night.
It's been an honor and a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me, Ari.
Good night.
Good night.